Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's story. Welcome back the incredible mind of horror writer 1717 from over on Reddit No Sleep. And as ever, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid Crew. And so, with that aside, let's get into tonight's story. And title. I got a new job as a night watchman. The things I got are terrifying. Part 2. Let's get straight into that. I'm an idiot. I thought as I walked down the dark street carrying a backpack full of stuff I wasn't even sure I needed. But who knew what I need when I was going back to a haunted museum to sacrifice myself. Guard the place for the night. I went home and did a lot of soul searching about staying on as the night watchman. Translation, I watched some Ben Stiller movies about museums, then fell asleep listening to this story on YouTube about a park ranger who turned into a cryptid hunter. After paying my bills, I had some money left over, so I went shopping for some things that might help me live through the night. Do my guard job a little better. Yeah, that's it. Unfortunately, I didn't have a magical store like that cryptid hunter did. When I asked the lady at my local Dollar General if they carried tranquilizer guns, well, she looked at me like I'd grown a third head. And I decided to improvise. I bought a Nerf gun and several bottles of hot sauce, extra spicy. Then I got a few more flashlights, plus batteries, and duct tape. Because, well, you can always use duct tape. I grabbed a few more things that caught my eye. I have no earthly idea why. And the biggest backpack they had, along with a heavy jacket, some extra clothes, and lots of bandages. Because my back wasn't really healed yet. I wanted to be safe rather than sorry. And as I walked down the street in my heavy-duty clothes, with a thick jacket, a full backpack strapped to my back, more than one car slowed down as people stared at me. Unfortunately, one of those cars happened to belong to the local sheriff. Evening, he said as he pulled up beside me and matched my pace. Evening, sir, I said, feeling the same feeling everyone does when a cop pulls up behind them. What did I do? What have I ever done in my entire life? He knows everything, and he's coming to take me to jail for that thing I did a long time ago. You feeling a little cold tonight? He said, looking at my jacket. Just heading to work, I said, starting to sweat. Where'd you work at? The museum, I said, pointing towards the lights that had just appeared on the horizon. He stopped the car and got out and walked up in front of me. It was a little bit intimidating, since he had a few inches and a good 50 pounds on me. As he walked up, I saw all the stuff on his belt and was half tempted to ask if I could borrow his taser for the night. He saw me eyeing his belt and stood a few feet back. I guess he thought I was going to make a grab for his gun. And when did you start working there? He said. Last night. He looked me up and down. You seem to be remarkably in one piece. My back hurts a bit. He nodded with what I would almost call respect, with maybe a little awe. So you know a little bit about the place? I said, lowering my voice and then looking around to see if anyone else was listening. And he responded by rolling up his sleeve. There was a nasty scar on the back of his forearm that looked like something had bitten a chunk out of it. But the bite, it was huge, much larger than any human mouth. Wow, I said. Did you get that at... He nodded. In the basement, he said. I quit after the second night and a week in hospital. I swallowed hard. A week? He nodded as he took a step closer and reached into his belt. I thought he was getting cuffs to arrest me for something when he pulled out a can of pepper spray and handed it to me. I looked at it for a long moment. Go ahead, take it, he said. You'll need it. I took the can and stashed it in my backpack. Thanks. He nodded, then walked back around and got in his car. Tell the curator Ted sends his regards, he said as he got into the car. I stepped over and leaned in the window. Any advice for dealing with the basement? I said. He thought for a long moment. Well, when you get stuck, just remember, up is down. Okay, I said, hoping for something a little less cryptic. And if you do make it through the night in one piece, come and see me at the station, he said. Anyone who can make it 2 nights in that place, I consider hiring as a deputy. I nodded, and he nodded back, and then drove away. In a way, it was nice to know someone else had done this job and made it out alive. Of course, that someone being the sheriff was a nice bonus. At least I knew I wasn't crazy. While the rest of the walk, I had a little bounce in my step. Instead of trudging to my doom, I started thinking, I can do this. When I stood at the bottom of the steps once more, it didn't seem nearly as scary as last night. Wow, I can't believe it's only been 1 night since I was here. I nodded to the gargoyles for some odd reason, then climbed the stairs and opened the door. I was a few minutes early, so I went over and sat my backpack beside the desk and went to the bathroom. When I came back out, the curator was standing near the desk, smiling. I'm so glad you chose to return, he said, and looking somewhat more prepared. I hope so, I said. Will I have to do a round upstairs and in the basement? No, I believe the basement will take up much of your time this evening. As relieved as I was not to have to do both, his statement worried me a bit. Oh, I almost forgot. Ted sends his regards, I said, and his smile grew broader. So you've spoken to the sheriff? Only in passing. He wanted to know what I was doing with the backpack. He glanced down at the pack with what I would almost call an amused look. I'm sure he was professionally curious. If you see the sheriff again, tell him he's more than welcome to return for a visit. During daytime hours, of course. I'll let him know. Well then, I'll let you get to it. Unless you have any questions. Only one, I said. What would happen if I talked to the apparition in this room? His smile faltered. I wouldn't, he said. Not even talk to him. He nodded and glided away, leaving me alone. But I wondered if I was ever truly alone here, with so many supernatural happenings in this place. I wondered how many entities watched, invisible to the human eye. I shook off the thought and focused on getting ready. It was another paper on the desk, but it was blank. What? No stupid rules tonight? I said. My rules aren't stupid, appeared on the paper. Really? There are no rules. There are no rules. That was to give you the hidden message, appeared on the paper. I couldn't come right out and say it. Where's the challenge in that? Maybe I should challenge you with a paper shredder. Well, that's it. No help for you tonight. No rules, no hints, no nothing. I paused to reflect on the fact that I was having an argument with a piece of paper. Unfortunately, it wasn't the strangest thing I'd done in the last 24 hours. As I glanced down at the paper, I felt the room grow cold. Instantly, I froze in place and looked at the floor. The apparition came right up to me. I could feel it. The warmth, the stench of death. I refused to move. However, I did keep my eyes open. I saw a pair of human-looking feet, but they were rotten. Decaying flesh barely held on to the bones as they hovered right in front of me. Even though I knew what to do, my mind was going spastic, telling me to run, to get away from this thing at all costs. My reaction was to stay as still as possible. It sniffed me, then turned and drifted away. Once the temperature in the room went back to normal, I looked up and it was gone. Wiping sweat off of my forehead, I glanced back at the paper. See, you wouldn't have known to do that if it wasn't for me. You are right, I said. I apologize. Would you please help me this evening? And there was a long pause before a single word appeared. No. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a disposable lighter. What do you think you're doing? I flicked the wheel and the flame sprang to life. This isn't funny. I held the paper a few inches above the flame and waited. You think you can threaten me? I lowered the paper a little closer to the flame. Burn in hell. You first, I said, lowering the paper a little closer so that the smoke from the flame licked it hungrily. All right. I'll do it. I released the button and the flame disappeared. A map appeared on the paper, or at least a partial map. It showed a way to a stairwell at the bottom of the corridor, and then it faded to nothing. What good is this if I can't see what's down there? I guess you'll have to find out for yourself. I relit the lighter. Sorry, I'm not allowed to show anymore. All right, then how about some rules? Rule number 1, don't get killed. Very funny. I'll give you a little more. A red dot showed up on the map in the far corner off to the left, but no rooms were visible, so I had no idea where it actually was. What's that? You'll want to stay away from that. Why? But no more words came, no more bits or pieces of the map. Fine, I said, tossing the paper on the desk, taking a picture of it with my phone, and then picking up my pack. I'll make it without you. And then I started off towards the stairs. They were not well marked. I got to the end of the hallway, and there were 3 doors staring back at me. I looked at a picture of the map that showed the right door was the one to the stairwell. It didn't show what was behind the other doors. Even though my curiosity was piqued, I didn't dare open a door I wasn't supposed to. Making it through the night would be hard enough without adding extra complications. I opened the stairwell door and stared into total darkness. I had learned my lesson from last night. Reaching into my pack, I pulled out a light on a headband and turned it on, and then grabbed one of the regular flashlights and ignited it. The stairway was made of wood that creaked with every step I took. Did I really expect any less? I said to no one. I made sure to check each turn that nothing was waiting to jump out at me. 3 turns later, I arrived at the bottom. The floor looked old but nondescript. It could have been concrete, but it was so dusty I couldn't tell for sure. In front of me stretched a hallway with stone walls on either side. There were no doors, no windows, no decorations of any kind. As ornate as the main hall was, this was the opposite. Nothing special about it. Slowly, I made my way to the end, checking behind me as I went. When I reached the end of the hall, there was a T-junction. I could turn left or right. Peeking around the corner and looking each way, they both seemed identical. Glancing at the map on my phone, I saw the red dot off in the corner to the left. I turned right, trying to keep as much distance between me and whatever that dot represented. Now, this hallway looked exactly like the last one, but it was something different. It wasn't a chill in the air, more like a heaviness. I slowed and flashed my lights all around, looking for anything that might be getting ready to attack me. With each step, the air grew stale. The heaviness made it hard to breathe. I felt like I was being pulled down into the floor. And looking down, I gasped. My feet? Well, they were gone. I pulled on one of my legs with both hands, struggling against the force pulling me under. After much effort, my right foot reappeared out of the floor. I did the same on the other side, and my left foot reappeared. I quickly backed away before I could get sucked in again. The floor appeared to be no different, but this strange paranormal quicksand made me turn and go back the other way. Hopefully, I still had room to avoid the red dot. As I walked, the heaviness didn't go away. It's as though I'd brought something back with me, weighing me down. I passed the hallway to the stairs on my way to the other side. The end of this hallway opened to a large room. Looking around, I saw dents along the wall. The room was sparsely decorated. There were lit torches on the bare stone wall every 10 feet or so. In the far corner, something caught my eye. I stepped up to it, checking all around first and finding a full-length mirror. And staring into it, I saw why the sheriff had stopped me. I looked like a combination of a petty thief and the unit bomber. And taking the opportunity, I straightened my hair in the mirror. As I stared into it, a face appeared behind me. I whipped around, but no one was there. Puzzled, I scanned the room for the interloper, when strong hands grabbed me and pulled me inside the mirror. I flailed my arms around, trying to grab my captor and regain my balance at the same time, but it was futile. I was falling backwards, just like in my nightmares. There was nothing I could do but fall. And after what seemed like forever, I landed on my back on a hard floor, knocking the wind out of me. While I struggled for my breath to return, I looked around the room. It had stone walls, but the floor was ornate, like the floor of the main hall. Red eyes glared back at me from the corner and slowly approached. And as it came closer to my light, I recoiled. It looked like the biggest dog I'd ever seen, only it had no fur. It was like someone had skinned it alive and then left it to go terrorize unwitting visitors. Drool slid around sharp-looking massive fangs and dripped to the floor, leaving a trail leading right up to me. I was helpless. Try as I might, I couldn't catch my breath. My hand unzipped the bag and reached inside. I found a round canister I was looking for and whipped it out ready to attack, only to find I'd grabbed the wrong can. I was holding garlic powder instead of pepper spray. The demon dog looked from me to the can, and then came after me. I had just enough time to screw the lid off and shove the can in its mouth. It chewed the can to pieces and looked at me with renewed rage. As it took a step towards me, something strange happened. It sneezed once, spraying powder everywhere, then stumbled back and began shaking its head uncontrollably. It stumbled around like it was drunk, and then ran away, slamming into walls as it went. And as I ran away, I glanced back to see it rolling on the floor, furiously pouring at the sides of its mouth. I took a moment to grab the pepper spray out of the bag and stick it in my pocket. Then I checked my phone to see if that was the red dot. Unfortunately, the red dot was still there, off in the corner to the left. I looked around trying to get my bearings when suddenly the wind picked up. Wind in a basement wasn't something I was used to, unless someone had just turned on a massive fan. It just happened to be coming from the direction I wanted to go. Stilling myself as my strength returned, I found the wind to be a worthy adversary. It pushed back just as hard as I did, and it was hard to gain much ground. I fought one step at a time to reach my goal. Unable to see where the wind was coming from, I tried to find any obstacles I could hide behind to protect me from the wind, but it wasn't happening. And suddenly, as the wind had started, it ended, leaving me leaning forward with nothing to fight against. I did a faceplant onto the floor, barely remaining conscious. And I stepped out into a massive room, with the ceiling so high I couldn't see it. Everything looked like it had been burnt to a crisp. There was nothing on the walls and only piles of detritus on the floors. I approached one of the piles and stared at it when I realized it was staring back. A burned human skull sat atop a pile of bones. Quickly backing away, I ran into another pile. My eyes grew wide as I tried to get away from both of them. And standing in the middle of the room, I counted 12 piles. 12 sets of charred human bones. My eyes darted around, trying to find what could have done this, and the biggest pile rose out of the floor, leaving the other piles falling from above and raining bones down on me. I dove near the wall and huddled, covering my head to protect myself from the falling skeletal remains. The rumble on the floor was deafening. I covered my ears and tried to see what was causing all of the noise. And finally, the dust cleared, revealing a massive, honest-to-God living, breathing dragon. I was stuck somewhere between awe and terror when it turned its huge, scaly head and looked right at me. Awe fell away and only terror was left. I pulled out my can of pepper spray and held it in my shaking hand. The dragon narrowed its eyes at me, making me shake all over and nearly lose control of my bladder. It drew close to me and sniffed, first at me and then at my pack. I dug into it, keeping a close eye on the dragon, so I didn't get distracted and become a snack. I wondered what it would find so interesting when I stumbled across the hot sauce. Pulling out a bottle, I unscrewed the lid and then tossed them to the creature. It opened its massive fang-filled mouth and caught the bottle. I crossed my fingers and started scooching along the wall away from the beast as it focused on whether it liked the flavour or not. It wasn't long until a massive clawed hand slammed down in front of me, blocking my path. And closing my eyes, I prayed for a quick death. But after a minute, nothing had happened. I opened one eye and peeked at the dragon. Its mouth was open like it was frozen in place. And on a hunch, I opened another bottle and threw it in. It closed its mouth, and I swear it made a yum sound. The mouth opened again, creeping just a bit closer. I tossed in another bottle, glancing at the two remaining and wondering what would happen when the treats were gone. I had a sinking suspicion, I knew. With the next bottle, I held it up, but I didn't throw it immediately into the dragon's mouth. Instead, I threw it across the room as far as I could. The effect was immediate. It swung around and chased after it, nearly hitting me with its tail in its haste. I took advantage of the situation and ran behind it, hoping that would be the last place that it looked. It wasn't long until it had found and devoured the bottle, then turned back to where I had been. I stayed behind it, turning as it turned and playing a deadly game of hide and seek. The roar it bellowed terrified me, but I knew I had to keep my wits about me. I had a chance here, and I didn't want to blow it. The dragon stomped around near where I'd been, sniffing and slowly turning. I knew it had caught my scent. And there was one card left to play. I stood in the middle of the room, allowing it to find me. I held up the last bottle. It lowered its head, and I swear it wagged its tail. And while looking around, I spotted a door on the far end of the room. I threw the bottle in the opposite direction and waited a split second for it to chase the bottle before I sprinted towards the door. I was nearly there when I heard flapping. The giant feet landed in front of me, kicking up a cloud of dust that flooded my lungs and brought me to my knees in a coughing fit. And as the cloud cleared, I saw two eyes staring at me, blocking my escape. I waited for death, knowing the beast knew I had tricked it. It took a step towards me, its breath nearly knocking me over. A low growl vibrated the air. I knew I was dead. It opened its mouth, and I waited and waited. It wanted more snacks, but I didn't have any. Vainly, I searched through my bag for anything, but there was nothing. In desperation, I patted my pockets. The pepper spray. I threw it as far away from the door as I could and waited for the dragon to chase it. And to my surprise, it looked at me with a confused and almost sad expression, and then turned and chased after the can. Ripping the door open, I turned and slammed it shut, and then slid against it, down to the floor. And closing my eyes, I sat there and took a breather. Whatever came next, I wanted to be as ready as I could be. I knew the dragon room hadn't been as bad as it could have been, but I also knew once it discovered there were no more treats, where I was next on the menu. Opening my eyes and looking around the room, it was an eerie putrid glow coming from the two torches standing side by side, illuminating the mist that clung to the floor. Now the mist wasn't cool and refreshing. It felt hot, like it had come from the bowels of hell. I rested for a moment, and then made sure I had my pack strapped on and started towards the torches. But as I arrived, flames sprang to life on another set of torches in front of me. And as I was led further into the room, my eyes darted left and right, watching for a sneak attack. This continued further until I stood in front of a raised dais with a throne on it. And sitting on the throne was a nightmare. It was the most hideous creature I'd ever seen. It looked like a demon from a horror movie times 10. Horns covered every inch of its red skin. The thing was huge, easily dwarfing the massive throne, and its piercing eyes drilled into my soul, making me tremble. As soon as I saw it, I hesitated, wondering if I wanted to approach it or if the choice had already been made once it saw me. My eyes shot to the sides of the room, searching for the escape door, but all I saw was a stairway.
Come forward,
it said in a deep voice that sounded like 1,000 at once. It wasn't a request, it was a command. I took a single, hesitant step.
You've done well to come this far,
it said.
But your challenge in this room is one of choice. Before you there is a stairway. One side leads up, the other down. You must choose. One will lead you back to the main hall, and the other will lead to continued trials and torment. The choice is yours.
1,000 questions ran through my mind, but looking up into that terrifying nightmare face, they all died on my lips. I stepped over in front of the stairs as the creature watched me with a bemused look on its face. The stairs showed no indication of which choice to make. There were no symbols, no puzzle to figure out, no key to unlock, only a stark, brazen choice. A conventional wisdom would say up would be the side to pick. However, nothing in this place was conventional. Moments passed like falling rain. Every thought of choices made paraded through my mind. The repercussions of the choice were great. I was tired and had enough of this place for the night. I wasn't sure I'd survive going deeper into the bowels of this ordeal. And suddenly, I was reminded of the words the sheriff told me earlier this evening. Whenever you get stuck, remember, up is down. Could it really be that simple? Could this be the thing he was talking about? Or maybe he meant something else and this was just a coincidence. The choice was immensely important. I knew I couldn't survive much longer down here. And I decided to trust the only piece of information I had. And stepping over to the downward stairs, I looked into the depths. The beast on the throne scoffed.
Are you sure?
It said in its growling multitude of voices. No, I said, looking from it to the steps. And I proceeded down into the darkness, thankful that I'd brought more flashlights with me. And turning one on, I looked around, and there was nothing special about the stairs. They were made of stone, along with the walls and ceiling. They seemed to go on forever. There was no break, no landing, only constant darkness. And several times I paused and looked back up the endless stairs, tempted to go back. In the end, I continued on with my choice. And after what seemed like forever, I came to the bottom of the stairs. There was no door, no nothing except a floor and a mirror. I approached it and reached forward, only to have an arm reach out and grab me, yanking me in. Before I knew it, I was falling. The floor hit me hard, knocking the wind out of me. My backpack came next, landing on my head and making me regret how much supplies I had brought along. As I laid there, seeing stars and trying to breathe, a face appeared, inches from my nose. I trust you found your second night as interesting as your first, the smiling curator said. There were several answers I wanted to give him. In the end, it was most fortunate that I couldn't breathe at the moment. Once recovered, I stood and checked the time. Somehow, it was 9 in the morning. Whether my 2 trips through the looking glass had warped time or my pack landed on my head and knocked me unconscious. The creator watched me with a sly grin, seeming to drink in my confusion with great amusement. Your pay is already sitting on the desk, he said. Will I be seeing you later this evening for another night? I walked over and picked up the stack of cash, ignoring the paper with the words, I'd rather be lucky than good, on it. And sure enough, it was twice the amount as last night. Would all my shifts pay the same? I asked. He nodded. When would be my days off? He cocked his head to the side, as if trying to understand the question. To be determined, he said, and then disappeared. I walked towards the door, wondering if I'd ever get used to his disappearing act. Then I thought about what he said. If my days off are to be determined, does that mean I won't get any? Or maybe I won't get any until the museum gets the best of me and I stay there forever as a ghost. And opening the door and walking out into the bright morning light, I wondered when that would be. Wow. Certainly another one. Wow. Chest pounding, absolutely riveting, and quite a humorous story there from the incredible mind of horror writer 1717 from over on Reddit, No Sleep. Once again, big thank you, Horror, for allowing me to narrate your incredible work on the channel. As I said many times before, I do find your work absolutely intriguing, as much as it is chilling. And of course, I hope you enjoy my rendition, and look forward to any updates or further work from yourself in the future. Well, guys and girls as ever, you know the drill. Please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid Crew. Now, if you can pen a story packing that much punch, then please do get in touch with me at the contact email, which is, as on screen, contactthedeadone@gmail.com. I really look forward to hearing from you. I hope you're all well and happy, guys, and trying to make the most of all this beautiful summer sunshine. Whatever it is that you do, I hope you're giving it your all and you're trying to stay fit and focused. But above all, remember, be safe, not sorry.